So there was a comment on a couple videos ago. What is that drone in your background? And so here it is. So this is the Flytrex Skull. It's one of our FPV drones. Got the old GoPro on the top, so you can get that nice HD footage. Yeah, we've been doing FPV for quite a while. It's a lot of fun. You know how Mavic kind of, or I guess DJI in general, they always have like the vroom vroom as you start up. It's like, oh, I'm DJI, I'm cool, but DJI doesn't have this. So I'm rewatching some footy here the other day.
Ooh, one out of the video vault. We have a waiver vault and a video vault.
Like, oh, some nice Mavic. Whoa, that is not Mavic Mini. Let's see another one here.
Give me a little play-by-play.
Whoa, a power loop.
There we go.
Yeah, coming in hot.
Is that new Mavic Mini firmware that just came out this week? Is that white balance and acro mode? Is that what that is?
Special 1.10 version, yeah.
Yeah, you got to up, down, left, right, start select, or AB, start select. What is that? Yeah.
If you hold landing for 5 seconds, it does power loops.
Welcome to Waiver Watch episode 20 on GU.
On GRG.
I don't know what day it is. This self-isolation has done me in. Anyways, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Waiver Watch episode 20 on March 29th, 2020. We are 107 waivers, and each week we bring to you some of the most interesting waivers approved by the FAA in the weeks prior. And this week, we are going to touch on a few topics. We're going to give you the usual waiver totals. We're going to talk about NOAA and their waiver. And we're also going to go a little bit on a different direction and make some comments about drone delivery during coronavirus or COVID-19. So, Jakey, like always, hit us with the waiver totals.
All right. So, it's 33 waivers approved last week, which is a pretty low number lately. Totally anticipated though with the remote working, shelter in place, everything that's going on. Kind of figured that happened. So we had 34 daylight operations, 10729, 2 for operations over human beings, 10739 Alpha. Those were a pair of Zero Safe Air Mavic systems. And then it got me a little excited because there's one for cloud clearances and visibility. It's 10751 Charlie and Delta. And then after reading it a little more, quickly realized that we have already covered this waiver. And this is just an update. So this is actually Brent's favorite waiver of 2019. So we have a link to that episode. It's kind of a special episode we did. So go check that out on our website. But this is just a responsible person update, just like Massachusetts waiver last week. So why don't you give us a little rundown of it, Brent, since this was your favorite?
So I think it's ironic that we just talked about this last week about how to change a responsible person, and then here we go. We have a real life example. It happened this week, and to top it off, it's 2019 favorite waiver of Brent. So anyways, so why I picked this in the first place is number one. Jonathan Newhouse, he's a very decorated pilot. He flies the Global Hawk, which is is it the largest unmanned?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, if it's not, it's definitely the top 3. It has a jet engine. It flies at astronomically high altitudes, like well over 50 into 60, I believe. Mm-hmm. And probably some D class, or actually classified altitudes are probably much higher than that. So,
well, actually, did you know that above 60,000, it turns into Class E again?
Class E. So man, they're only flying in Class E.
It's like uncontrolled.
So anyways, so very decorated pilot, manned and unmanned. And, that's kind of like why I picked it. Plus, you don't see often waivers that are waiving the visibility of unmanned aircraft. So this is unique. They have a site over on the West Coast over a bunch of islands that they do research on. And so we're just assuming NOAA's doing some, sea life monitoring and everything like that, coastal monitoring, whatnot. So it was an interesting waiver. Nonetheless, they can fly with 1 mile visibility, and they have no restrictions on how close they can get to clouds. So there is only one other person, right, that has this waiver.
I think there's a few, because like Wing has one, but yeah, which one were you thinking of again?
I was thinking about the NTSB.
Oh yeah,
that was the other one that I really remember.
Mr. Bill English, yep.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. If you're using drones to do accident investigations, you don't want the weather to stop you because, frankly, you're going to have the best of the best on site here. You're going to have everyone involved with the FAA, and you can deconflict your risks. And most likely, there's going to be a TFR around sensitive crash sites. So,
yep.
So yeah, that's the waiver that we're going to talk about that we have covered for this week. Very interesting. Best pick of 2019 for Brent. Jakey, what was your 2019 pick?
It was a zipline waiver. Yeah. Which,
ooh,
ironically, they do drone delivery. They do medical sample delivery, and that is a great segue into our main topic.
Almost like we know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
We are time travelers.
Let's talk about drone delivery. Yeah. So drone delivery, it's a great use case for drones. It is a challenging one though, but with the pandemic, situation, it's certainly been talked about a lot here. Can drones, help make everyday life here a little better while we're all sheltering in place and socially distancing ourselves? And can it be used to, stop the spread, sanitize, monitor things? There's all these uses, right? But drone delivery is definitely a big hot topic, and there's everywhere from the large companies, putting pressure on the FAA to let them go, to even small kind of entrepreneurial startups that are maybe trying to take advantage of this. But we just wanted to maybe kind of set the record straight a little bit on some of these like frequently asked questions we're seeing, maybe some misconceptions and stuff. So we happen to have a resident expert here at 107 Waivers in drone delivery, Brent. So why don't you give us a quick rundown on why we're even qualified here?
Yeah, so exciting enough. Drone delivery has always been on our radar, and we've been interested in it. And back in 2018, we pushed forward and actually completed line of sight 107 drone delivery in Grand Forks, North Dakota at a golf course. And this was a public golf course open to the public. And we were able to create a ConOp that allowed us to safely operate under Part 107 regs and deliver items from the clubhouse, such as cheeseburgers and a couple Cokes, beef sticks. There was a bachelor party out there that ordered a bunch of stuff. We couldn't deliver it all in one shot. But, so we've experienced drone delivery firsthand in several different, cases. So I've been involved with drone delivery since 2018 in different fashions. And so we figured, hey, let's kind of talk about this, because we're seeing people start to revisit the 107 portion of drone delivery. So we're just going to kind of give you a high level, these frequently asked questions that people have, or that they may have some misconceptions. We're going to try to cover some of that stuff. And, another thing too is, while we were doing this operation, we had the Fargo FSDO come out and, ramp check us essentially. And we passed with flying colors. So we'd like to think we know something, a thing or two, about drone delivery. We are somewhat qualified to answer these questions. So, yeah, fire away. Hit me with the first one, Jakey, and I'll fire back at you.
So, can I do visual line of sight drone delivery? It's always the first one.
Simple. The answer is yes, but it has to be visual line of sight. So this is one thing that you need to be very careful about. So if the FSDO comes out and visits you, you better make sure that this is line of sight, and that they also agree that it's line of sight. And they're probably going to be a little bit more conservative than what you think is line of sight. All right. Jakey, is the person that is receiving the package considered part of the operation?
No. So kind of a misconception. Hear this one a lot, well, they know the order's coming though, and they're like receiving it, and they're willing to stand underneath it. It still doesn't count. The participating people are only like the critical flight crew for your mission. So no matter what you do, if you brief them, if you tell them, to sign a waiver, that doesn't count. They are non-participating. So 107.39 can't operate over human beings. That applies here. Also to moving vehicles. So keep in mind, when you're setting up your flight route, has to be clear of moving vehicles and humans. But then also consider 107.2.3 hazardous operations. So let's say you're dropping the package. The person receiving the package is not standing directly underneath it, but 2 feet off to the side or something. You could still get dinged for 107.2.3 if something happens, because if your drone experiences a failure and it comes down, you kind of have this crash cone and you hit them. That's you're still putting that person at risk. So you have to keep in mind not just flying directly over them, but just kind of the area in general. So, all right. So can I do BVLOS drone delivery?
The answer is no. That is part of what many companies, the majors, and when I say the majors, I'm talking about like Flytrex, Matrice, Zipline, Amazon, Google Wing. They are pursuing what's called type certification and Part 135. So this is like UPS out there right now, or FedEx. They have a Part 135 air carrier certificate. The same thing has to happen for drone delivery. These companies need to be certified. They have to hold this certificate of Part 135. So I kind of went into something, I mentioned something there a little bit. I want to ask you the question, Jakey. Why do I need a type certificate for my aircraft to do BVLOS drone delivery?
Yeah. So, maybe like a 2-part answer. So you can't do BVLOS drone delivery under Part 107. So Part 107 assumes an unairworthy aircraft, no TC. You can't do BVLOS under 107. You can't get a waiver to 107.31 to do drone delivery. It's right in the regs. Okay, so then if you get a 135 to do BVLOS, that requires a TC'd aircraft. But just think in general terms here. Drone delivery is probably a little more urban. It's probably more people, vehicles around. So you need to have just a reliable aircraft. You need to have an aircraft that you've considered the loads. You're not just slinging a roll of toilet paper underneath the aircraft and it's swinging around as you're delivering. It's got to be contained and guarantee that this thing is not going to put anybody at risk while you're in flight and doing the delivery and coming back home. So FAA is working on TCs with the majors. We keep using that word. There's nobody that's made it through yet, although maybe in the next couple months, if we cross our fingers and hopefully the things don't get worse, we'll see that coming out. So
right. And a lot of these companies are working in the IPP program. So they're getting some, first line contact with the FAA to work through this process. They're really the ones that are paving the way for the future 135s that want to come through as well. So interesting thing too. So jumping back to Part 107, right? So all Part 107 operations do not require a type certificate for aircraft. So, your Phantom, your Mavics, Del Airs, all the different aircraft that people are using are not required to have this type certificate. So that's why you can, in theory, use a Mavic Mini to deliver something, because it doesn't need to be type certified. It just needs to be airworthy, right? And you're doing that before you fly, hopefully, right?
Yeah. Wow. So, man, what could you deliver with a Mavic Mini? Maybe a roll of toilet paper.
I mean, I think easy, right? A bottle of Tylenol, just a super small thing.
There you go. Okay, so good one. My turn to ask questions. So can I deliver prescription drugs, let's say, with my Mavic Mini?
Ooh, prescription drugs? That is probably going to be a little bit of a challenge, because how do I go to CVS or Walgreens or Walmart and pick up someone else's prescription? Especially if I'm not up in the prescription, game, and what if a relative can go get that or whatnot. But definitely Joe Schmo can't go get Betty Lou's, loratadine for her, conditions. So I used to actually, funny thing, I used to be a delivery guy for a pharmacy. So we did in-home delivery for prescriptions. So
yeah. So that a random drone pilot cannot just walk into CVS, get somebody's prescription, and then drive to their residential home and deliver it via drone.
Definitely not. And actually, and that brings the case, there's different levels of prescriptions. So there are, some prescriptions that are also over the counter, OTC, but then there's like narcotics. So, things for pain and whatnot, like that's a whole nother ball game right there. So good luck transporting narcotics, legal narcotics through the air. probably not going to happen. So let's talk about, JK, how would I even place an order for you for drone delivery? But let's just say we're using Zing, right? How do I place an order? That's a challenge.
That's a great question. I'm not even sure. But I guess if you think about the majors, so like Amazon, for example, they obviously have a full online system to make orders. I mean, it would just be like built into their experience. But maybe let's use Google, for example, since they're not like a store. So Google might have partnerships with like companies. So again, like leveraging their existing payment online systems to make the orders, and maybe then Google would work with those companies to limit the types of things that could be purchased via drone delivery. Obviously, you have to consider the weight, the size. I can't deliver a 12-pack of Coke. It's just too big. It's too clumsy. So I have to order one bottle of Coke, but the point of sale actually has to have a good customer experience. The point of sale has to limit that. So if you're just a single guy doing drone deliveries, it's like you have to figure that out. You can't just take like Facebook Messenger orders and then, it's just not scalable, right? So, and then
you certainly can do that, right? But that's not the best customer experience,
right? So then back to that question, Brent, how do I pay for these orders if I'm not, working?
It's a good question. Like certainly you can do it, the startup way and, the backyard way, corner lemonade stand, and maybe you accept, Venmo or Apple Pay or PayPal or whatever. But that's not, like you said, it's not a scalable way to really make a huge impact using drone delivery. You need to build out this system. It needs to be somewhat of an enterprise and, repeatable, scalable type system. So there's a lot of challenges outside of the regulations on how do you even implement drone delivery in a practical way that customers will actually enjoy. The last thing we want to do is we think, drone delivery is a great service. The last thing we want to do is have poor customer service and a poor customer experience, because all of our hopes and dreams that, drone delivery is the next big thing will be instantly shattered because we actually don't do what the customer wants. So super important. One thing I was thinking about here is, can I fly a drone in drone delivery across a road? What are the nuances there?
Well, so yes, but okay. So 107. Let's talk about visual line of sight here. It's like 107.39. Can't fly over moving vehicles, and again, it's not just being directly over them. It's the whole trajectory and everything. So I suppose you would have to just like physically have eyes on the road and kind of play the Frogger thing. Oop, car passed. Okay, there's a gap. Shoot through the gap, and it didn't pose a hazard. So and all right. So yes, you can cross roads with drones. You have to not fly over moving vehicles, and you can't operate in a hazardous way, right? So if cars are going 80 miles an hour and you've got a 50-foot gap and you shoot it, you aren't operating over cars, moving vehicles. But if you had a failure at that moment, right in the middle, where would it go, right? Would it hit the car? Would it go into the windshield? So be mindful if you are going to cross the streets. And this is with any 107 operation, right? When crossing roads, make sure that you're not, introducing undue risk and hazards to the public and property. So not only just people, but things. Remember, Roy Boyd, he's the only one in the United States that can fly over moving vehicles. So nobody else can, at least under 107. So
and he's flying in a mine, and he did provide some rollover protection information to the FAA to say, hey, when I fly over a dozer, that windshield is designed to stop rocks from coming through, and if the truck flips over, the passenger or the driver will be safe. So they had some sort of level of safety in their risk analysis, essentially.
All right, I got one for you. So,
all right,
okay, you're doing the delivery. Can you deliver to a backyard or like a driveway? How does that work?
Yeah, so that is a good question. So you're gonna have to do like some sort of site analysis, right? Let's say I'm delivering in a driveway, right? Maybe when I drove there was no cars in the park there. But as I'm coming in for the delivery, mom and dad are coming home and now they're driving in. That might not be a safe place. It was when I took off, but now there's a car there. So little challenging. Backyards might be a little bit easier, but how do I ensure that the people stay inside the house or stay far enough away in that backyard? That, let's just picture like a fence. We see some waivers out there that require restricted access sites. So a house with a fence and yard, it's kind of like restricted access, right? People shouldn't be jumping the fence to get in, but we still need to control the people that are inside the house so that they don't come out and get excited. The first thing that we do when we see drone delivery, or what I would think and what I've seen before, is people want to film it, right? They want to get close, want to put it up on Instagram and Facebook and say, look at this is amazing. Now you can do that, but you need to do it in a safe way where if there was a failure of the aircraft, that you're not putting those people at risk. So it's kind of like a depends question. And this is like common, right? In the FAA, it's like, it depends.
Yeah.
You prove to me how you can safely deliver in a backyard or in a driveway. And as long as you can convince me, the FAA, we're good, right?
Yep.
Is that good? Is that good? Is that a good answer?
I like it. And then what about, I think I see a lot of times where you designate a drop point and then you just do all your deliveries, so maybe an apartment or something like that. But then I suppose from the pandemic side, do you really want everybody gathering around a drop point? Because then, social distancing, everybody's, touching maybe the same things. So,
right.
We want to make sure, and we're not the experts on this, but if you're doing drone delivery to help not spread COVID-19, you also have to make sure that you don't spread it through drone delivery, right? Like put this drone delivery in a situation where you're actually putting people together and touching things and so on. So if you are doing drone delivery for no contact, I see that word a lot, no contact drone delivery, make sure that you're not contributing. And so we're not the experts on that. Talk to your health, CDC, but have a plan for that, essentially.
Definitely very, very good point there. You don't want to try to help out and you're actually introducing a new problem that not many people have thought about. So certainly good to consider that. I don't know, do you have any more frequently thought of questions here?
Man.
I got one here.
All right.
Okay. Line of sight, right? There is this thing that you can temporarily lose line of sight of aircraft. So like just say you fly behind a tree briefly, right? Now this is going to be a point of contention because let's just take, for example, like Zing. They have a fixed length of string that they do drone delivery. So that drone may fly at like 100 feet over trees, over houses, over everything. But when you get to the landing spot, you have to descend to release that package. A lot of the majors out there, they have some sort of lowering mechanism and everything, so they might not have to come down as low. But with Zing, you have to come down low. So you have to ensure that whatever this brief moment line of sight loss is not an extended amount of period. And this is not defined by the FAA. So this is another thing that you're going to have to, the FAA will give you a rope long enough, to burn yourself. And so you're going to have to make sure that you're making a good judgment call if you're descending with your drone and you happen to go below the roof line of a house. You can't see what's happening. So then let's say you're even behind that roof for like 2 seconds, right? 3 seconds. You still need to be, how do you know that you're not inducing a hazardous situation? If you can't see the ground, maybe you say, I have the camera. But again, it's all up to you to convey that to the FAA that you're doing a safe operation.
Correct. And, we won't get into specifics, a lot of proprietary, delivery mechanisms, of course, with the majors. But one thing that strikes me is you don't see from the majors, the Googles, UPS, all these guys, you never see them flying the package just kind of like dangling beneath the drone. So, from the FAA standpoint, you have to make sure that that package is secured at all times. Like a gust of wind can't blow it around and mess up the center of gravity with the aircraft. Most of the majors are, have like a compartment underneath the drone where the package is stored, and then maybe there's like a winch type of mechanism that lowers it, or some like zip line do kind of a parachute. So whatever the case is, you never see the package like dangling beneath the drone in flight. So, and I think for a number of reasons.
Yeah. It's a less than ideal configuration, right? Because you're really, like you said this, you're moving the center of mass. in a different spot that it's not originally designed to. Certainly the drones have enough power and they can overcome, shifts in center of mass, but certainly not the best configuration to be sling loading package delivery across something. So have to consider that. Certainly a safe way to do it. You can dangle light loads, have minimal impact, but once you start dangling a heavy load, think about a helicopter, fighting a fire. They fly a lot different with that load than if they didn't have that load. So
there's actually a special set of regulations for like sling load on a manned aircraft, and it really can get you in trouble with, because I mean, again, the load is moving, and so it's very dynamic. Like your aircraft controls are changing like at all times, and you have to be conscious where that thing is swinging, and it probably goes back to like 107.2.3. If you come in hot for a delivery and the aircraft stops, but the package swings in an arc and catches in the tree or whatever, those are things you have to be thinking about. So
so high level, we covered a handful of maybe commonly asked questions or commonly things that people are thinking of. So if you're considering doing drone delivery, trying to help out in this case, you really need to think of it on a professional level. Treat yourself like an aviation company and start thinking about what are the actual risks. I want to help people. I want to do great things, but you have to step back and say, hey, how does the whole picture work? What does my delivery zone look like? How do I ensure safety throughout the entire flight? How to make sure my load doesn't fall off? All these things. So certainly, feel free to comment below. We'll keep an eye on the YouTube comments. And if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them. At the end of the day, we just want to educate people and make sure people are safe and not operating in ways that they shouldn't be. If you want to check out the Flytrex drone delivery in Grand Forks, we do have a link on our webpage that will show the drone delivery there. You can also check below in the YouTube comments, or actually the description, we'll have a link to when DJI came up and did a little video on our drone delivery back in North Dakota. So that's just over 250,000 views, which is super impressive. And at the end of the day, the response for drone delivery at a golf course where it's, sacred and it should be quiet, people loved it. So a lot of people have some different opposing views of drone delivery and disturbances and the noise and everything. But on a golf course, we actually had some really positive comments. People loved it. It was absolutely cool. They thought it was the best thing to get a warm cheeseburger from the clubhouse delivered to them at a tee box. So,
oh man, we could go on, but even think about that for a second. If you order a cup of coffee, how do you make sure it stays warm? There's so many packaging. We didn't even touch on packaging. We got to cut it off though.
How do you not tip the coffee over, right? How do you not spill hot liquid in flight?
Yeah, so many things.
Boiling hot liquid falling from the sky is not a good thing. Anyways. But
all right. Well, let's wrap it up. Definitely shoot us some comments. This is a great topic. We want to be helpful here. So, but until next week, we'll catch you later. Stay healthy and fly safe.